of the City Council business meeting for Wednesday, July 14th.
I'd like everybody to remember, turn your mics on
Thank you.
when you need to, and you need to have the mic probably 6 to 8 inches away so that it's broadcast.
Thank you for that reminder. So let's call the meeting to order. Welcome to the City Council business meeting for Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. Please let's rise and say the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Gringy,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Strawn,
Present.
Councilman Scanlon,
Present.
President Rezanetti.
Present.
That's 7 council members present.
Thank you. Before we begin, I'd like to have some required notifications. I'd like to read this. Please note the city abides by New York State and this exceeds requirement that unvaccinated individuals continue to wear masks indoors and remain within 6 feet social distance, which includes at City Hall and at public meetings like this one. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask for this meeting or social distance. However, if you appear ill, present, or present any COVID-19 symptoms, staff may ask you to leave distance to wear a mask regardless of your vaccination status. This meeting is recorded video and audio. Okay, moving on now to approval of the minutes. Councilman Rich.
Thank you, Madam President. I stand and ask for unanimous approval for the minutes from the June 23rd, 2021 business meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Tonight we have a public hearing for the FY27 CDBG funding. We'll have the deputy clerk announce that information.
Binghamton City Council and the Mayor of the City of Binghamton will now host a public hearing regarding Introductory Ordinance 21-60, which authorizes the mayor to submit the FY47 Annual Action Plan and accept any and all funds allocated by HUD from CDBG, ESG, and home entitlement programs. Those wishing to speak on the public hearing may come up to the podium and please sign in. Also, please announce your full name and address for the record.
So it doesn't appear that we have any speakers.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you. Can I have a second? So this portion of is over. So now moving on to our public comments. City residents are welcome to speak. You will each have 5 minutes to speak and to discuss city issues. I do ask you to please be respectful. Janine, please let everyone know how this is playing.
Okay, to participate in tonight's public comment, please come up to the podium one by one. Be sure to sign in and please announce your full name and address for the record.
Remember, remove the mask or should I keep it on?
If you're vaccinated, you can take it off.
Good evening, Tarkadelism, Tremont Avenue. It's nice to be back and present with you all in person. Thank you for making accommodations for the public. One, housing justice. We are on the verge of an eviction wave. We have so many housing injustices in this community, and there is nothing but silence from the administration and the city council. Assessments. We have not had a citywide reevaluation since 1993, one of the oldest in the states. Clearly, we have had 2 major changes to our real estate market, downtown, and student rentals. Let me read a few of these, just recently. 162 Court Street. It's assessed at $285,900. It sold a few months ago for $3.5 million. That's disgusting. That's a broken, inequitable system. 34 Lyle, and I shared this with the assessor because I couldn't believe it. A 10-bedroom rental generating $40,000 a year minimum because it's 10 bedrooms at $500 to at least 10 months. It's assessed at $18,000. So a property that's bringing in over $40,000 a year to an out-of-town property owner, student rental owner, is paying taxes on $18,000. You explain that to your seniors in your district. One more. Student rental on the west side, 129 Murray Street. Purchased in 2015 by an LLC from Florida for $70,000. Sold just a couple months ago for $315,000. 9-bedroom student rental. The market has changed significantly. And let me get this clear so none of you can be confused. If we collected $30,000 in taxes this year, it's a little more, but the tax levy is $30 million. After you finish an assessment, you collect $30 million. What you've done is redistributed that tax burden equitably. Our downtown property owners are being subsidized by the homeowners in your districts. Student rental landlords, many of them from out of this area, are extracting incredible profits, while the homeowners in your districts are subsidizing their tax bill. What is wrong with this body and this administration? Silence. ARPA funds. Obviously, I think half should go towards housing issues. Preventing evictions, right to counsel, supports that are already in place, repair grants, rental inspection and licensing program, first-time home ownership, using the land bank as we've done successfully. And if it was resourced more, we wouldn't even need to auction off these properties to speculators and likely slumlords. We'd be putting them into control of our local residents. But inaction and silence from this body and this administration. I have no idea why for 7 years the mayor has boasted about his wizardry with financial management, 12, 15, $19 million in the reserve, and you are taking an unprecedented flexible recovery grant that should be supporting the workers, the business owners, God damn it, the homeowners and the tenants who have struggled through this pandemic, and you inflated the number by 4.1%. I don't care if that's the guidelines. That's disgusting.
You have a minute left.
Look at the difference between last year and this year when you're covering your financial losses. It's just over 3 million. Please revise that resolution, cut it down to 3 million, eliminate that BS inflator clause, and free up millions that could support folks that have struggled through this pandemic. Finally, the ethics reform, it's a joke. It's an election year process. 2 years ago, I came before this body to bring forth financial ethics disclosure forms. Remember that, Tom? You buried it. Now I know why. And so will you all soon. But I know the mayor had something to do with it. And if he didn't tell you why he wanted it buried, you're going to find out soon enough.
May I take my mask down? Sean Johnston, YWCA, Binghamton, New York. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank all of you for all that you do for the YWCA. I come to you with great honor, with great pleasure, with with great pride working at the YWCA. Last year, we housed 232 women. Those are unduplicated numbers. We just recently added 9 more beds. We run at 114%. The mental health crisis is at a rise. Majority of the time, our hands are tied, not knowing what to do, many times having to turn some of those women away because we do not know what to do. And for us, that is very sad because places have been closed down and they have been offered places to live and do not have a place to live. And what we have does not offer the stability that they need. So for that, it's sad, but we do house them and give them as much as we can. But right now, we're doing the best we can with 9 more beds, and right now we are so filled, we could use 9 more beds. But we do thank all of you for what you offer us and what you give to us. And with great pride, once again, I thank all of you for what you do for us. And I stepped away from my position for 9 years, and I'm back. And I hold back tears because I'm back there and help these women and children. And the housing out in our community is so limited. So our rapid rehousing program is limited on what they can do to take our women at the Y to get them housing in a timely manner. So we keep them for a long period of time, shelter them, feed them, clothe them, and help them as much as we can. So I thank you very much. Thank you.
My name is Ephraim Rosario with the YWCA in Binghamton. And I work with the street outreach program, where I go out and go under bridges and walk around to see if there's any individuals that's maybe sleeping behind warehouses, stores like Walmart, Boscov's, Olam's, anywhere that I can get access to. I go around and I find these individuals and see if they would like some assistance. And even if they don't want the assistance, if they take at least a hygiene bag or some sort of clothing that I can provide them, because of the council, we're able to allot that to them, whether it be undergarments, socks, shirts, possibly here and there. And because of that, because of the ESG grant funds that we've been receiving, I'm grateful for it. We are grateful for that. We've been able to assist individuals in the community, whether it's a single father, single mother, or just a single individual by themselves. We've been able to assist them with cell phones, prepaid phone cards for those individuals, food vouchers, for the individuals that like to, well, let me rephrase that choose to stay outside. I'll get them either a lamp, a light, a flashlight, a headlamp, which we can receive from Walmart. From there, as well as house them in hotels until housing is found, which again is a little bit difficult right now with the housing that's going on. But because of the ESG funds, I'm still able to be there and assist them, advocate for those individuals that don't want to speak to anybody in the Department of Social Services. I can be there to be that voice for them. Whether they like to go or not, I can get applications from them, fill out, and bring it there to assist them. Go with them to speak with landlords, or even just to go into a shelter, I can help them out. So because of the ESG funds, I'm able to do these things, as well as since I'm allowed to do Broome County, I can go to deposit, I can go to Harpersville, I can go to outlying areas to get them and bring them in. For those individuals, when I get a phone call that there's somebody that's next to a park, someone that's sleeping next to a creek, like 5 Mile Point the other day, I just received a phone call from a young lady saying that there's a gentleman that's out there that they would like to help out. I went out there, I couldn't find them, but that's okay because now I know where the individual is and I can keep on going there to look for the individual. And that's what I like, that I'm able to do that because of the funds that we're receiving. And again, thank you very much for your assistance. I appreciate the assistance and the help that we can give for those individuals who are homeless out in the community.
Anyone else? Seeing that there's no one else, we can move on to the next discussion of our meeting.
President Rossetti.
Second reading legislation, we'll have Councilman Strong handle. We have a letter. Oh, yes, thank you for reminding me. Go ahead.
Okay, we have a letter that was sent into the clerk's office from Tina Chronopoulos. It says, greetings, I reside on Laurel Avenue in the 2nd District, the seat of which is currently occupied by Sophia Rossetti. There are a number of things I would like to address today. Number one, the sewage plant. Let me remind you that the Republican members of this council, as well as the mayor, have been conspicuous by their absence from the board meetings of the sewage plant, making a mockery of their claims that they are interested in what happens at the plant or its employees. Let me also remind you that there have been issues at the plant for years now, many of which are the result of faulty construction. Here are some updated facts. Veolia's BioStir system has a valve that has been malfunctioning for at least 6 months. But Veolia's active flow is running well for the first time since 2019. The staff are still waiting on GHD to furnish them with documentation they need in case of a power outage. Fathom this, the owners have paid millions and millions of dollars for systems that continue to not run optimally. I don't know about you, but if you buy a really expensive car, you'd expect it to run impeccably. You'd expect it to be furnished with all manuals, and you would complain vigorously if it acted up in any way. And while the plant staff continues to raise these issues, from what I've witnessed at the sewage board meeting, the city project manager seems to be more or less resigned and just sort of flaps about helplessly when issues are being raised. The mayor seems to be claiming some kind of victory after the publication of the state comptroller's audit of the rehabilitation works that have taken place at the plant. May I remind you that the audit took place because the costs of the project keep ballooning way beyond the initial price tag. The taxpayers are going to have to shoulder the cost for the next 20 years while people like the mayor can pretend that they did everything perfectly. Gross. The audit's findings do not in any way endorse the way the money was spent or justify the delays in the construction. All the audit says is that the bookkeeping seems to be okay. I would also like to point out that the audit was carried out from afar. Not one single person from the auditor's office actually came to the plant in person to see with their own eyes the many construction issues that remain in which continue to be repaired by the employees of the plant. Number two, the so-called audit by Veolia. Would you be able to furnish the taxpayers with news about the so-called audit by Veolia? I, for one, would like to know when this is going to take place and who's going to pay for it. After the community came out strongly several months ago against awarding a contract to Veolia for essentially assessing the operations and maintenance of their own equipment, we haven't heard anything since the Republicans on this council showed us they don't care about the conflict of interest. I know that $66,000 is but a drop in the bucket compared to the $274 million that was spent on rehabilitating the plant. And yet I think given one more dollar to a company such as Veolia, whose equipment has not been functioning correctly for years, would be negligent. Number three, city council meetings and access. I would like to urge city council members to consider allowing the public to continue to make public comment via the telephone/Zoom. As I have pointed out to you previously, those of us who work, who have care responsibilities, or who are homebound for other reasons might welcome the opportunity to address you all using our own voice rather than having our letters read out as if by wrote by someone else when we cannot be there in person. I'm pretty sure the meeting attendance and public comment increased over the last year. When you want the public to continue to engage with what you do, don't you want to make it easy for your constituents to address you and make the process as accessible as possible? Surely you'll realize that access does not have to be interpreted as narrowly as it is defined by the ADA. I sure hope you'll reconsider or explain why remote public comment is no longer possible. Thank you.
Was there another one?
That's it.
So now we'll move on to the legislation.
Thank you. I'd like to ask council to unanimously consider a motion to reconsider permanent resolution 2145
Second.
adopted on June 23, 2021.
Second. Aye.
Aye. Like to ask council, I'd like to make a motion to amend permanent resolution 2145 to replace the second resolved paragraph as follows. Resolved that said funds will be accounted for in A688 other liabilities, that no portion of said funds will be allocated or expensed until budget amendments are approved by city council, and that all allocations and expenditures must comply with the United States Treasury guidelines.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment? Yeah, but the clerk take a roll call vote.
Councilman Scringy,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Rezanetti.
Aye.
All right, that's 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Amendment passes.
I'd ask council for unanimous consideration and make a motion to approve permanent resolution 21-45 as amended.
Second.
Discussion.
Call the question, Madam President.
Deputy Clerk, please take a roll call vote.
Councilman Scringy,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Rezanetti.
Aye.
That's 7 ayes and 0 nays.
Passes as amended. Thank you, Councilman Strong. So now we're moving on to the preferred agenda. Would anyone like to explain the preferred agenda? See?
Okay, the first item on tonight's preferred agenda is the Introductory Ordinance 21-58, considered in Finance Committee. It's an ordinance to amend the 2021 DPW budget to fund additional vehicle parts and repairs. The next item is Introductory Ordinance 21-59, considered in the Finance Committee. This is an ordinance to amend the 2021 DPW budget to increase funding for the supervisor position. The next item is Introductory Ordinance 21-60. This is considered in Finance. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit the FY47 Annual Action Plan and accept any and all funds allocated by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development from the CDBG, ESG, and home entitlement programs. Next is Introductory Ordinance 21-61, considered in the Employees Committee. This is an ordinance to amend the 2021 law and risk management budgets to adjust the annual salaries of 2 of the Assistant Corporation Counsel positions. Next is Introductory Ordinance 21-62, considered in the Finance Committee, an ordinance to amend the 2021 fire budget for temporary services through the end of 2021 for the retiring program assistant. Next is the Introductory Ordinance 21-63, considered in the Finance Committee. This is an ordinance amending the 2021 treasurer budget for stipends for additional responsibilities of the principal clerk and the account clerk too. Next is Introductory Ordinance 21-64, considered in the Finance Committee. This is an ordinance to void permanent ordinance 21-43 regarding the treasurer budget to defund an account clerk 2 and to fund a part-time clerk.
Discussion?
Next item is Introductory Resolution 21-50, considered in the Finance Committee. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Binghamton Police Athletic League for use of FY46 CDBG funds for roof replacement.
Discussion?
Next item is Introductory Resolution 21-51, considered in Finance. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement with CARES for the use of CVY 45 funding for the backpack and school supply program.
Discussion?
Next item is Introductory Resolution 21-52, considered in the Employees Committee. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to appoint a new NISDA NYSDOT Equitable Business Opportunities System point of contact. All right, the last item on tonight's preferred agenda is the Introductory Resolution 21-53, considered in the Employees Committee. It's a resolution establishing a standard workday for all titles and authorizing the city clerk to file the standard workday and reporting resolution RS 2418 with the Office of the New York State Comptroller.
Any discussion?
Madam President, motion to accept the preferred agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Scaringi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Rezanetti.
Aye.
That's 7 ayes and 0 nays.
Okay, so next we have ordinance 21-69, considered in finance.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask council for unanimous consideration of the introductory ordinance 21-65, an ordinance to amend the 2021 fire budget to transfer funds for retirement payout and coverage.
Second.
Any discussion?
Call the question, Madam President.
Councilman Scaringi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Rezanetti.
Aye.
All right, that's 7 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you much. We now move on to communication from council members.
Madam President, keep it short. I just want to say thank you to all of our city residents who have been so resilient over the last couple of days with all the rainstorms that we've had. Various parts of the city of Binghamton, particularly on the west side, experienced a lot of power outages, some of which lasted up to 48 hours. So when situations like this arise, we obviously want to be mindful of our neighbors, particularly our elderly, vulnerable populations, people who may have food issues, medication that may need to be stored at a certain temperature or refrigerated. So I just want to thank so many people, neighbors and constituents who are just very resilient over the last few days. I also want to thank the mayor's office and NICEAG for coordinating getting over onto the west side. We actually had a number of downed trees over on Grand Boulevard, Grandin West End, Grandin Park, Grandin Helen, which was the big one. And we really had a number of pockets, also in the ward as well. So happy to see that passed through. I want to take the opportunity just to thank two offices here this week, Corp Counsel. They have been extremely helpful in dealing with assisting some homeowners in the first district in relation to city court and code issues and moving those in a positive direction. And the code enforcement department as well. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Chris Schleiter and our first district code rep, Kyle Menarche. Both gentlemen are just phenomenal and really got a lot of issues up front and taken care of really quickly. And lastly, just want to remind everyone that in the first district, this Saturday at 11 a.m., we're doing a ward neighborhood cleanup. We're going to meet at 11 a.m. Obviously, given the weather, it looks like there might be a thunderstorm, so we'll be definitely keeping an eye out for that. And we'll be meeting at Sunflower Park on Murray Street. We'll have coffee and come down and join us, and we'll help clean up the neighborhood for a few hours and just spend some time together. And with that being said, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Now on to Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Council President. I hope everyone can hear me. As mentioned before, I will be brief because we'll be back before you next week. So I want to first discuss the access that was mentioned by the letter read by our clerk. We will continue to discuss because as council, it is important to us that our constituents have access. And we do know that we, as a body, have a right to amend code to address the needs of our constituents. Number two, ESG funding and the hearing we had just about 25 minutes ago. We've been getting calls and letters about more information. And that was the reason I asked Steve during the last work session about how does the public gather more information to ensure that the bodies that are assisting those in our community have access and are able to apply for this funding. So yes, we heard from the Y and we're very excited about the growth, but as she mentioned also, we have a need in this community. I think there was another member that talked about housing. We cannot underscore the importance of housing and housing justice in this neighborhood. So I go back to the ESG funding and the CDBG funding. Steve did offer his services. So for those who have questions, I would encourage you to reach out to him. If you don't know who I'm talking about, Steve Carson, please, you can feel free to email me and I can forward the email. Also, as mentioned previously, a great hurrah to all of the neighbors and friends. We have been dealing with water and neighbors are out there helping each other push cars out of water. So thank you for doing that and lending a hand. I also want to recognize code and zoning because they too have been quite responsive for the calls and the questions we've been getting in terms of what's allowable. And believe me, you guys, the people in the 3rd District have legislation, they have ideas, and I get emails every 5 minutes, I feel like. But I'm excited to bring these things to you because they heard we were going to talk about housing, they have ideas, and they're ready to go. So when we have whatever we decide to have as a body, we will probably have a 3rd District caucus first, and then I will share all of this information that I get on a daily basis, one of which being cleanup and accountability. Clean up for yourself, clean up your property. Let's make this, again, a place we all desire to reside in. And again, that concludes my announcements thus far. So thank you.
Thank you, Council President Raffinetti. Wow, it is so nice to look everyone directly in their eyeballs again. That's something that I definitely miss doing virtual meetings. It's hard. It's like dehumanizing almost just to see everybody on a screen. It's much nicer to be able to address everybody in person. I also wanted to echo the sentiments of Councilwoman Riley in agreement with the talks about accessibility. One tiny silver lining of everything moving remotely is we were forced to very quickly adapt things to make them more accessible. They had to be accessible remotely. And so now that we are back in person, while it's nice for us people who are able to come, we can't forget people who were never able to make meetings in person. People who have children who go to bed around this time, or people who are homebound, or people who, have, for whatever reason, limitations where they can't easily leave their house, or they can't come to meetings at this time. And so what I mean by saying it's a silver lining is that now we have demonstrated that this infrastructure can be put in place, and it seems to be that it would be possible to make this a permanent fixture of our meetings, because, we can't just talk the talk, we have to walk the walk. And if we want to truly make our meetings accessible, if we want our constituents to be able to participate as fully as possible, it seems like it now is as good a time as any to codify these accommodations. And I think it would be, I always hesitate to say, oh, it'll be easy, because who knows? But I think it would be possible to do that. And I do think we owe it to our constituents. And I also, in the same vein, wanted to say thank you to everybody who works behind the scenes to make these meetings possible. We come to this room and everything's all set up for us, all the technology is ready to go, all the tape, it looks really, really nice. So shout out to IT and the clerk's office and, everybody else who gets the meeting rooms ready for our arrival. So thank you so much. We quite literally could not do this without you. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank the folks from the YWCA for all the work that you do. It's organizations like you that make the community that we are, and we do, which is a giving community. And I was watching the news, and I'm watching Senator Schumer and President Biden, and they're talking about this new infrastructure bill that's going to hopefully be passed by Congress this month. And it's a couple of $1 trillion. And it made me think about the American Rescue money that we've gotten from Senator Schumer and the president, which was $46 million. And because of this infrastructure bill coming in, and we approved, I think it's $4.5 million for some water and sewer infrastructure that the mayor wants to do, and we should do it. And I'm happy we're spending the money there, but I think that we should maybe hold off writing a check from that account until we see how much money we're going to get from this new infrastructure bill. Pete Buttigieg was up in Syracuse on the news, and he's talking about all this money that Syracuse is going to get, and Binghamton is, we're going to get more for infrastructure. So I think we should hold off maybe on spending this money. And I'd like to see, I'm going to start, we had some of us were there. We had a hearing about what the money should be spent on. And infrastructure is definitely there, but it's about children and families and neighborhoods and small businesses. And it's a lot of money. And we should be looking that way, and housing being a part of it. The YWCA, my goodness, the housing situation. I've been talking to a lot of people these days, and I was over in the ward, and people are talking about housing. People are talking about the shortage of apartments, that the student housing takes all the housing away from everybody. And I don't know what to do about that. But we can do something about the landlords that are not fixing up their houses. And with this money, we can grant people money to put roofs on their houses and paint their houses and fix up every neighborhood in the city. And so I think that's what we should be concentrating on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple quick things. I also want, I'm glad to be back in person, and I also want to echo Councilwoman Friedman's thank you of the clerk's office and IT and corporate counsel and everybody. This looks great and for what we need for now. Hopefully we get back in our normal home soon, but for now this is good and I'm glad to be back. And I'm glad, like Councilman Scringy said, and then Councilman Riley, I'm glad for the cleanup and people helping each other, but I also want to echo Councilman Riley's sentiment of cleanup and accountability. Let's continue doing that ongoing, even if there's not a storm or whatever. Let's work together, neighbors. And I also am welcoming the conversations coming up with zoning and more conversations with zoning and code and ideas from all of our districts as to what we can do to make those things stronger. And bring, like Councilman Burns said, bring landlords into the loop too. There's a lot of things that can be done relatively simply to fix up. I think a lot of good things are happening, but a lot of things can be done to fix up these neighborhoods even more. And I'm also open to conversations about if it makes sense to provide some resources to help people do that if they're willing to keep their properties up. And if there's some kind of, like we said, accountability or some kind of a way to hold them accountable if they do receive any funds to get them started on those lines, that I definitely would support that as well. So thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Madam President. Last week, the third and final phase of Robinson Street corridor reconstruction has begun. So if anybody out there listening, I would encourage you to avoid that if you can. If you can't, please drive slow down the street. There's construction workers out there, there's equipment moving around, so everybody should be safe, but it's progress to move forward. So it's a mess in the interim, but in the end, it'll be nice when it's all done. So that's all I have, Madam President. Thank you.
Okay, so before the last one, that I do want speakers to come in here tonight. It's always, we're aware of the work that you all are doing, like always and this is a bit of a reminder. You guys are the real workers out there for whether you have to like around. So thank you for that. I do want to say, again, a big thank you to Corp Council and IT folks, the clerk's office for everything they've done to make this environment as welcoming as it is, and to make sure that it works. So thank you so very much for that. I know that it's not always easy. We appreciate everything that you do. But lastly, speaking of cleaning up for our communities, I do have a cleanup. This upcoming Saturday, the 11th. So we are kind of looking at the weather, so stay tuned. But I do want to say that regardless of the weather, I will be there, and I will also be hoping to have some donations for the libraries throughout the west side and beyond. So if anybody can come and help, that's great. Folks can drop some books that would be fantastic. Summer, we will be reading. And with that,
So moved. Second.
thank you all for tonight.